Okay, so we're going to create a bare metal backup. To do this, we go to the new backup set wizard over here. New backup set wizard appears. What we need to do is choose file system and then next. If we're backing up the local machine, we can use my computer, or alternatively you can put the path of name of the server in. So as an example of the name of this server. Once you put in the path name, just hit next. It will ask you for credentials. Okay, now we're logged onto the server. From here you can see all the drives that are attached to this machine, and you can also see system state and services database. For a bare metal backup, we need to include both of these. So we select them, hit add. For a bare metal, we will want to exclude some directories. Examples of these are the recycle bin. We don't want to include this within the backup set. And another example of this would be the Windows temp file or temp folder. Once we have the selection, which you can see in the window just down here, we then hit next. Here we can adjust the max gen or the max generations. This is the number of incremental copies of files. Usually we'd recommend using 5. The default is 30, but 5 is our recommendation. Next we can move on to the backup set options. By default we leave these settings the way they are. However, the main things to make sure are ticked are detailed log and zlib global. Zlib global is the compression type, and the detailed log just gives us a good understanding, or gives us details about what's being backed up inside of each backup set. All the other settings can be left as is. Next we have the advanced options. In general we'll leave again these options unticked, but for files that are in use or files that are open we tick the volume shadow copy, but in general we would leave this unticked as well. We have some performance options. These can be used if there are performance issues with certain servers. Again, in general we'd leave these the way they are or set as the defaults. We can set up smtp notifications. So in here you can set up or add email addresses. In general, again, we wouldn't really need to use these as we have the Data Barracks advanced monitoring software, so therefore that would be monitored through a different email notification. Here we can create retention rules. We'd use retention rules for housekeeping, so for example setting a policy to delete deleted data from the backup set. An example of this would be the first option, delete files removed from source. We can say a file is removed from source after 30 days, deleted from the backup set. And here we can name the retention rule appropriately. Now this rule is created, and you can see the description below. Next we can move on to schedules. We can set up schedules. By default we'd set up a schedule to run on weekdays or whenever the server is in use. We can set daily, which runs once a day. We can set weekly backups, so we can specify the particular day that we want to run them on, and then we can specify the time. So for example, we want to run it at 8 PM and we want the backup, if it's still running, to stop the next day at 7:45 in the morning. Another option to make sure you tick is the enforced retention rule. If you have a retention rule applied to a backup set, you'll need to make sure that that retention rule is ticked within the schedule. Otherwise the retention rule won't run automatically, and you'll need to run the process manually. Here we can set the backup set name. In general we would remove the default settings or the default name and just make it a little bit more descriptive. So for example, bare metal, and then we could put something like C drive just to indicate that we have this drive included within the backup set. If local storage is enabled or is available, then we can tick this option here, and that means it will send a cached copy of the backup data to the local storage folder. And now you can see on the left hand side the bare metal has been created and it shows the server name.